Have you hit menopause or beyond and are thinking that you either need to update your fitness regime to meet your 45-plus-year-old body or just plain get started with a regime? Well, in this episode of the Thin Thinking Podcast, you are about to be inspired. My guest, Cam Allen, is a fitness and health coach for women 45 plus. She is going to motivate us all to get moving, but in a way that works for the fabulous female 40 form and above. And she's going to hit us with the fabulous 4 pieces of the Midlife Muscle Protocol. 1, be an active human. 2, strength training. Rest and recovery 3, and 4, a dash of cardio. Sound intriguing? So muscles, are you ready to come out from the shadows? I hope so. So dust off your weights and come on in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking Podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hey you, come on in. Sit down. Get cozy. All right, now that I am an official empty nester, it is very official and all the tears have dried. Well, most of them. I am now using some of my extra empty nest energy and dive bombing into my garden. Yes, filling the void with dirt. So I don't know about you, but I love, and it's probably because I'm a Virgo, but I love month-by-month guides, like in those magazines or those blogs that are listicles that just tell you, do this, then do that, then do this. So I have this book from the 90s, the early 90s, on gardening in Southern California. And I think I got the last edition off of Amazon because it was used. And they don't really sell these anymore, and it's so classic. And I love it because this woman literally takes you month by month through what to do in Southern California, the month of September, the month of October, etc. And boy, is she zealous about gardening. I mean, the things she's having you do, I think you need gardening to be your full-time job with regards to, well, it is her full-time job. And I'm sitting here going, do you realize I have a full-time job? But anyway, I'm an apprentice and I do sit at her feet. I sit at the feet of the mentor, right? I've got my apprentice mindset cap on with regards to gardening. So it's fun to be in learner mode and to have this woman named Pat, who wrote this book over 30 years ago, to be my coach. And I remember when I bought this book, it was a while ago. And this woman, there's a picture on the cover and she's got the 90s, tortoiseshell glasses, and she's got the sweater from Eddie Bauer on. I remember when I bought this book and this woman named Pat seemed old. But now I look at her and I think she's probably around my age. did you, maybe you're like me, I don't know. But I remember when I was watching the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family in the 70s because I was a devotee of both those shows. Uh, I thought Shirley was, an old lady, and so was Carol Brady. But now when I see a rerun, I see, wow, they were beautiful and probably, in their early 30s. They were probably about 5 years older than the children they were supposed to be, mothering. I think there probably wasn't that big of an age gap between Carol Brady and Greg Brady. And in fact, didn't they go out on a date once? Yeah, well, we don't have to go down that. But anyway, um, speaking of aging and coaches, I am really excited to introduce to you a colleague of mine who I think is pretty cool. She is an expert on a lot of things about women over 45, especially our muscles and how we work out, which I absolutely love. Cam Allen is a fitness and health coach who's all about empowering women through menopause. She's on a mission to help you boost muscle strength, rev up your metabolism, and help you thrive during midlife. She created the Midlife Muscle Strength programs and the innovative Move the Dial method. These programs are like your personalized fitness journey companions for navigating the midlife adventure. Hello, Cam, and welcome to the Thin Thinking podcast. We're excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here as well, Rita.
Yeah, your reputation, what do you say, precedes you, comes ahead of you. I heard about Cam through somebody else, and I was like, I've got to talk to this woman because Cam helps women who are over 50 really learn how to work out for women over 50 because it's different, which we're going to hear about, and get fit and healthy and confident. So we're excited. But I first want to know because you've got a really interesting story of how you got into this. So please just tell us a little bit about you and how you got started helping women over 50 with fitness.
Yeah, so it started back way back when I was in my 40s. At the end of I taught elementary school for 18 years and I left the classroom in 2009. And so when I left, I was in this middle of turmoil at home and were we going to stay married after 20 years, all the things that sometimes happens. And I discovered CrossFit. And so I started exercising, and exercising was my way of dealing with the turmoil at home. So I left the classroom and went into the gym, and that became my classroom. And so throughout my 40s, I was exercising like crazy. I was probably not nourishing myself enough to support the exercise I was doing. And I learned that lifting weights was very empowering. So in this pit of my life at the time and throughout my 40s, it took a long time. It was a long process. But I learned how to feel empowered and strong physically and mentally using weightlifting for sure and CrossFit in general.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, CrossFit is huge. And I think
Mhm.
when you were doing it, it was like the new thing, right? It was really huge.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, like what age range were you teaching and what made you decide to leave teaching? Was it just too much burnout? Like, was it just too crazy?
I was mostly a fourth and fifth grade teacher, math, science, and social studies for most of my 18 years. And I think it came to a point, it was 2009. I'll never forget. It was the year I turned 40. And I was aware that my home situation, was in turmoil. And so I knew I needed to do something. So I decided to leave the classroom. My principal was leaving that year as well. So I was like, this is a great time to exit. My kids at the time were in middle school. I think my son was going to be in eighth grade. My daughter was going to be in fifth grade at the time. And they were also at the school. So it was just seemed like a right time to leave and like figure out my life. I had a midlife awakening at the age of 40. It wasn't exactly what I planned, but that's what happened.
Right. Well, and you did the best and you thrived. You got into CrossFit. And then what happened? So you were at your peak fitness at a certain point?
I was for sure. We have something called the Open, and you qualify for the regionals. And at the time period, I qualified for regionals in my age bracket. So when you're a master's athlete, when you're over 40, they put you in 5-year increments. So I finished 100 something in the world that year. Like my fitness was like
Oh,
on point. And it was an accident. Like I wasn't training for this. It was just like a process of workouts that the whole world does at the same time. And I was like, wow, I'm really like, I can do this. I didn't know it was felt very empowering for sure. But the downside, probably when I was about 48, I noticed unexplained weight gain. I was exhausted. My skin was dry. My hair was falling out, like classic hypothyroidism kind of situation. And I was at the doctor for just a regular checkup. And she's like, do you have anything else on your mind? I'm like, yeah, all these strange symptoms. Like, what, have you ever had your thyroid tested? She said. And I said, nope. And that was the beginning of like an 18-month period where things were going strange. I had very strange injuries, my bicep tendon, my pinky, and then the hypothyroidism. So it was a time period where my body was like, lady, you're doing too much and you're not eating enough and you need to rest and recover more. So it was kind of
mhm.
like a train wreck, actually.
Right. Wow. Yeah, you must have been burning some serious calories at that
hmm
time. Yeah.
hmm
So, so then what happened? I mean, so your body broke down.
It
It
broke
was like
down.
stop, stop. So you stopped doing CrossFit, I'm assuming.
Well, it didn't, not that fast. What happened was at the end of this 18 month, I noticed I went to the OBGYN and she's like, your uterus feels enlarged. And lo and behold, I had fibroids that were the size of like a 5 month. Oh, I would look like I was 5 months pregnant at the age of 49. It wasn't
Oh,
good. It wasn't a
wow.
good look. And I ended up having a complete hysterectomy up until that point, which puts you in surgical menopause, which is a whole nother thing. Up until
Right.
that point, I think I had one hot flash in my 40s. I remember specifically, I was in the kitchen with my daughter and I was like, what is happening? Am I sweating? I had her feel my neck. It was crazy. And then I went into surgical menopause overnight. And so my 50th year of life was a roller coaster for about 6 months until I figured out my hormone situation.
Wow. And so how did, so you had the hysterectomy and then obviously, hopefully you felt better on one hand, but then you had no hormones.
Right.
So what,
Yeah.
and then did you take some bioidentical? Like, did you work those out? You did.
I
Okay.
did, yeah. So it was the doctor that did the surgery put me on oral estrogen that was not bioidentical with no progesterone, and I didn't know if I was coming or going. My moods were crazy. I would cry, hot flashes all the time. It was a lot, and so that
Mm.
is when I went back to school to become an integrative nutrition health coach because I was like, I have to figure this out. Like I am worth this, and this is not normal. I would have rather had the fibroids and looked 5 months pregnant than what's happening right now. So that's when I went back to school.
Oh, how cool. And then so what did you find out and how did how did you transition through all of this and did so you got your thyroid tested as well
Mhm.
and what were you doing for that? Was that all part of this transitional period like with the hormones, with the thyroid because the thyroid is hormonal, so like
Right.
how do you put
Yeah.
all these pieces of the puzzle together?
It was a lot. The thyroid happened first, and then the fibroids were like 18 months later. So it was this
Okay.
18-month period where I was experiencing weird injuries. And so the thyroid, I was just seeing a regular doctor for that. That seemed to be managed pretty well with Medicaid with
Okay.
hormones.
Okay,
But
good.
the hysterectomy was not that was not the case. It was a mess. And so I ended up having my hormones tested and I found a functional medicine doctor in my area and I still see her today. And that's been the game changer as far as that part of my story.
Right. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So
hmm
then so you continue to do CrossFit? Because I'm trying to find out like with the
Yeah.
lineage of the working out.
Yeah. So after I recovered from surgery, because that takes a minute, once I recovered from surgery, I was still coaching. I was still managing the gym at this point. We were under new ownership, and that's another story. But once I tried to return to CrossFit, I realized, I call it, my go button was gone. There was no more go button, and CrossFit did not serve me. And if I did a traditional workout that I had done for over 10 years at this point, I was exhausted and on the couch for days, and like my recovery was really slow. And I thought, this isn't normal. Like, what is
Right.
happening here? Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so what happened? What did you do? What happened next?
Well, I continued coaching for a while, and I realized that it wasn't for me, but I was still coaching. So, like between classes, I would do like just traditional strength training and not the crazy CrossFit kind of workouts. What I realized was that at some point, if you don't have your hormones on board, that kind of workout doesn't support you. And so what I realized was there are other ways to work out in midlife, that I could not go back to CrossFit. If I went back to CrossFit, I would be returning to the thing that also messed up my hormones from to the begin with. So I had to change what I was doing.
I mean, maybe you don't have
Mhm.
the complete explanation or the layman terms, but why would doing something like CrossFit mess with your hormones? Are you just creating too much testosterone? Like
Mhm.
what's the mechanism?
Yeah, so it was really my adrenals. And so I was living
Okay.
on stress and cortisol. And I was, at that time, I don't even think I was eating red meat. I was probably a vegetarian still. I was not eating enough calories to support my exercise. We call that overreaching. You might hear it as
Mhm.
over exercising. I was going beyond my what I was eating, with calories, but
Calorically,
also,
yeah.
yes, exactly. And so, um, yeah, I would say that's it. It was really my adrenals. And then once you have a complete hysterectomy and your ovaries are no longer in your body, your adrenals take over some of your sex hormone production. Now it's way less than your ovaries, but if you're still running on cortisol and adrenaline, they're going to choose that over making your supportive sex hormones. Our sex hormones are very protective, and without them, you're a different person. That's what happens in menopause.
Right. So mentally, emotionally
Mhm,
different, and then physiologically different as well,
mhm.
because
Yeah, and
nothing's
it's
balanced out.
nothing. And it's really hard when you define yourself as an athlete or that kind of exercise. And that's part of your identity. It's changing your mindset around that kind of exercise. That was challenging. And sometimes there are still days I'll see a workout and I'm like, I'm going to do that. I've learned how to modify them more appropriately for my midlife situation. But that still happens at like once or twice a year. I still overreach and I'm like exhausted the next day. And I'm like, yeah, Cam, you went too far. You pushed it too far. So it happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then I'm picturing you. You've gone through your hysterectomy. You were, you know, your go button wasn't working anymore. How did you transition out of this time? And where were your kids at this time? Like, how old were they at this point in your life? Were they still in middle school, or what they were like now in high school?
Yes, I believe my son was in college and my daughter was a senior in high school in
Oh, wow.
2016.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
they were older at this point. So this story that I'm telling took over 10 years, the separation, the divorce. But it was in the last 18 months, of my 40s when all the injuries and the diagnosis came for sure.
Ugh, not a great way to enter into
No,
your 50s. I'm
no,
sorry that
it's all
happened.
right. I
Well,
really
something good came out of it because you made some discoveries, right?
Absolutely. And when I went back to school and I reworked I learned how to heal myself first, like what is going on. I was working with a
Mm,
doctor. I went back to school. There wasn't a book about exercise or hormones, or there wasn't a class. I took so many classes, read so many books, did all the certifications, trying to uncover exactly how can I exercise? This strength training is like, I love it. Like, how can I do this and still have energy tomorrow and not be on the couch?
yeah. And so and so you discovered. Now, is this part of what you would call your four keys to midlife fitness? Is these were the four things that helped you get going, but in a different way?
Absolutely. So there are four keys to midlife fitness, and we'll start with the first one, strength training. Strength training is the foundation as far as it goes. It's like building muscle, has confidence benefits, but it also
Yeah.
has health benefits like blood sugar and your bone density and all the things. Muscle is definitely like the key for that the first piece.
And would you say that like because I'm 59. Well, no, I'm not 59 yet, but I will be 59 in a couple of weeks, somewhere in my future.
Mhm.
And I do some strength training, but how much is enough? Like, what would you suggest, to somebody who is in their above 50s, like when you say building muscle, because
Mhm.
we lose muscle too every
Right.
day, like our body is now in muscle losing mode, right? And I'm hyper aware of that because I can feel it.
Uh-huh.
How do you combat that with what you're talking about? And obviously, it's not strength training like the CrossFit strength training.
No,
So it's
it's
a
not.
different format, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So doing strength training about twice a week. If you're in perimenopause, maybe 3 times a week. So 2 to 3 times a week. Full body, meaning you're working not just your shoulders, not just your arms, you're working your entire body in a session. And it's just twice a week, maybe 3 times. Like I said,
Mm,
I really like the best way to know if you're lifting heavy enough is the last few reps of each and every set should be challenging. We want to challenge our muscles. We want to stress them out a little bit so
yeah.
that they grow in the meantime. We have to give them nutrition and time, but we also have to stress them enough. We have to stimulate them enough so they can grow.
So it's not a question of, when you made that transition, not lifting heavy weights. It's
Mhm.
just a different way to go about the strength training itself. I never did CrossFit, so I'm
Mhm.
sure there are listeners who have, and they probably understand more. That seems more of it's cardio with weight training at the same time. Is
Yeah.
that correct? And was that
Yes.
just too crazy?
Too
Is
crazy.
that was the part that was a little crazy?
Yeah.
Like trying to kill two birds with one stone, you kill yourself instead.
Yeah. And I think it's because the second key element is rest and recovery. So I believe that when you are lifting weights, it's okay to rest between sets. I want you to rest, days between your workouts. Actually, I'd like for you to take 2 rest days away from the gym. So if you're a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday worker outer, you may need to work out Mondays and Thursdays now. You need an extra rest day between that. That's another thing that happens in midlife. And I think a lot of times we think we're supposed to exercise more, our bodies are changing in midlife and we're like, why is this happening? I'll just go back to what I always did. I'll just exercise more. And actually that's like the opposite is what's going to happen. There may be too much stress on your body depending on where your estrogen levels are, if you're in menopause or not. Estrogen is very protective and it helps us build bones and it protects our brain and also helps us build muscle. And so if you're in perimenopause, your estrogen is not there anymore. It's not there to protect you from stress.
Right. So now would you just talking about stress levels and recovery,
Mm-hmm.
you're fine with somebody doing cardio in between their things because they aren't stressing their muscles. They're just elevating their heart rate and their
Absolutely.
pulmonary system.
Absolutely. And actually there's a lot of benefits from strength training for your cardio health as well. I was reading a study about that recently. So, strength training also helps. You think cardio is the only way to build your cardiovascular health, but also strength training can do that as well. So yeah, strength
Okay.
training like 2 or 3 times a week, making sure you have extra rest days in between.
And
Where
you're doing, oh, great. Sorry, I
in
interrupted you.
cross in CrossFit days, it was, you're working out Monday through Saturday. Or, if someone
Really?
came in, yeah, it was crazy. It was not
People
smart.
get really, it's a world, isn't it? Like
It
people
is.
just get possessed
Yeah.
by
Uh,
their CrossFit. And I know I had a friend whose husband did it and during the pandemic that his gym closed down. I think he almost
mhm,
went crazy. Like,
yeah,
it
right.
was
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a lot of people that happened to. So it's like an addiction in a way. So you recommend, and that workout should be like, if you're just starting out working out, obviously that's going to be a different length of time than somebody who has built up to an hour or half hour or 45 minutes. What are
Right.
you suggesting is optimal usually?
30 to 45 minutes twice a week that's it. And that's for all levels, because if you are lifting weight, a heavy enough weight for you, you'll know because the last few reps of each set will be challenging. And so as you get stronger, you can use a heavier weight, or if you don't have a heavier weight at home, what I suggest is just moving slower so your muscle stays turned on for longer while you're lifting a weight. So that works for everybody, wherever you're starting, whether you're a beginner, use a weight that's appropriate for you, or you're more advanced, you just use a heavier weight for you.
And do you think that it's better to work with free weights versus doing a machine, like doing the machine reps, like circuit training or something like that?
Well, I just read a study that actually both ways build the same amount of muscles. So whatever
Isn't that
yeah,
interesting?
yeah, I just read that like over the weekend. So
Oh, cool.
I
That
use free
adds.
weights. Yeah, I know, right? If you go to a gym that has a machine, you're of course you're lifting weights. You're still going to build muscle the same way. I personally use dumbbells here at home, and I like it because I feel like there's extra core benefits because you have to have your core
Mm,
more organized when you're moving
right,
your arms and your legs independently of each other. Right.
right. Oh, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So we're working out twice a week,
Yep.
30 to 45 minutes, and then we're resting and restoring. I have a question about that because I bet you know, because a lot of people, um, we notice that. So when you are lifting weights, you're making little tears in your muscles, right? And
Hmm.
then the water goes to repair the muscles. And part of the building the muscle is because it tears, and then the muscle has to kind of reformulate around the tear. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's when we get stronger, is not actually in the workout, it's in the recovery. Eating your
Interesting.
eating your protein and taking days off the gym. That's is it.
And this phenomena happens, which is very frustrating for a lot of people
Uh,
who are watching the scale. I mean,
hmm.
just meaning like getting on the scale a day after their workout, they'll notice the scale is up
Hmm.
because of the water that
Hmm.
goes to the repair the muscle. Isn't that correct? Like
Yeah.
you can like be up a pound or two in water weight because you've basically torn all your muscles and now your body is repairing itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And our body uses a lot of energy to repair. So you need to make sure you're eating your protein, which we actually need more in menopause than we ever did. That's another
What
change
do
that
you
happened.
recommend? Because that's a question I get from a lot of people
Oh, yeah.
too. How much per pound would you recommend? Or it's
Yeah.
per pound, right? How much
Yeah.
your weight is? Mhm.
Yeah, so you could use your ideal body weight, and then that would be your number of grams of protein per day.
Oh,
In
wow.
menopause, yeah, you could go up a little bit from that. But what I do when I'm working with people is where let's figure out where you are and let's slowly bump that number up. So,
Because that can be a lot for people who haven't been eating
mhm,
protein, especially vegetarians, right?
right.
Do you have good protein sources that you would, because this is another question I get all the time,
Hmm.
like for vegetarians, like what protein should I be eating then, if I'm
Yeah,
vegan or vegetarian?
right. So, like all of your beans would be great. Quinoa is a great source as well. Um, Hemp hearts is another thing you can add to salads or to smoothies, which also has healthy fats. Those would be some of my top vegetarian sources. And, I think um, Truvani has a great plant-based protein powder.
Oh, okay. Truvani. And is that
Truvani,
made from pea protein or
it
is
is.
it
Yeah, it's
okay?
and it's
Uh-huh.
clean ingredients. That's the food babe on Instagram. Check her out if you know her. Her name's Vani. Anyway, she was one of the instructors when I went back to school to become a health coach. And so I love her stuff. And that would be another plant protein that's appropriate. It's a way to add more protein to your life. If you do marine, you could do marine collagen is another way. Some of my vegetarian people who are like, well, I need something. I know two people specifically that are now using the marine collagen just to help them
Is
get their
there
proteins.
protein in collagen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it's not a complete protein. It has 8 of the 9 essentials, but it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, no, for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
And so protein powder. And
Hmm.
well, what about us people who are, don't eat a lot of meat or don't eat any,
Hmm.
but we're maybe we eat a little chicken. Well, it's like,
Hmm.
what would you say the best, like how much you would disperse that out throughout the day?
Well, I
I
would
guess
start your
everybody.
day with a savory breakfast. Like protein is the, 30, 40 grams. If you could start there, that's amazing. And there's also a lot of indication that that'll help control your blood sugar as the day goes on.
Yes.
If you
Hmm.
start your day off that way, then the day goes better. We always joke on Amelia and I, she's my podcast partner. We ate bagels and orange juice and went off to high school, and our blood sugar must have been on a roller coaster all day.
Yeah, I know. I think
uh,
about the way that we were told to eat.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cereal and orange juice
Right.
and
Right.
crazy.
Crazy. But we're wiser now. So,
So savory breakfast gets you going and
hmm
it sounds like you get a good part of your protein in for the day. So we
hmm
have workout, rest
hmm
and recovery, and then what is key number three?
Being an active human, and that includes walking and, taking the steps and
Mm,
parking farther away. And it's all your non-exercise activity, which accounts for about 15% of your daily calorie burn, if you will, your daily
right.
metabolism.
Yeah,
And that's
I was
your
going to say
non.
your sedentary calories, but they aren't really sedentary.
Yeah, right. All of those things matter. And in midlife, they matter even more. So be an active human.
Interesting.
Yeah, we can also think about walking and blood sugar, since we just talked about that. If you are walking after you're eating, you can lower your blood sugar response to food by like 75% by walking after you're eating. So that's like another way to double dip, if you will, help your digestion, help
Yeah,
your blood sugar. And then moving like that helps, as far as your
I read
non-extra.
that. Yeah, as well. Like I've on this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, I talk about the blue zones and
Mm-hmm.
the longevity diet or just longevity way of life. And I think they saw that active people, meaning just that their lifestyle provided them
Mm-hmm.
movement. Having to no car, like a lot of these are villages in the middle of nowhere, so they're walking everywhere. They're walking to church, they're walking down to their work and or to herd the goats. I said, "Oh, we need a new goat movement, like a new everybody owns a goat." And you know how LA is like, because I live in LA and it's the fitness capital of the world. I said, that's a new goat workout where you're herding your goats up the Griffith Park passage to anyway. So um so being active human even it's interesting. They were saying that people cooking was a very physical activity, and that actually, like, because
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it, you are grabbing pans, chopping,
Mm-hmm.
moving your upper body a lot in the cooking process, I guess, doing laundry and
Mm-hmm.
gardening. I know I do a lot of gardening, so I'm moving my body a lot. So that's really cool. So okay, we're going to be active humans. Love that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
walking after dinner too. I did hear about that. Is awesome for lowering blood sugar, and I think that is another blue zone thing.
Yeah. And then the fourth one is a dash of cardio, which we mentioned earlier. As far as cardio goes, like the recommendation in menopause is about 45 minutes a week, which is way different than what I was doing in
What?
my 40s. I know. What? Is that shocking?
Hmm.
Yeah. My favorite way
So,
to do cardio
oh,
in
I'm
midlife.
sorry.
Uh-huh.
I totally interrupted you. I'll just let you talk, and then I'll come back around with the question.
My favorite way to do cardio in midlife is do interval training, but I call it HIRT, high intensity repeat training, which allows more rest I like rest. Rest and recovery is one of the four key elements. So we're adding more rest to our intervals. And that's a great way to do interval training or cardio workouts in midlife. And it's simply resting until you can go again, which means that's amazing.
So, what would a workout? So you're saying a dash of cardio.
Mhm.
So over a week long period, how many cardio events would you have?
It depends on if you want to do all 45 minutes in one day or do you want to spread it over 2 days. I think over 2 days makes a lot of sense because it's not that much, right? You're just doing a dash of cardio. And I really like it doing intervals this way because it's based on your effort of the day. Like you want to work at 80% of your max of the day, and it gives you permission to say, okay, I'm done for today. My energy's gone. I'm finished. And so that's what I like the most about it. It's 4 to 10 rounds is what I usually recommend. And when your rounds fall off, when your effort falls off for the day, then you call it a day. You're finished. So
Now,
give
when you say 4 to 10 rounds, it's like you're doing 80%. Like
Hmm.
if you're running or walking or on the treadmill or whatever, and are you timing this? How are you knowing when you're at your 80% and to stop and
Well,
rest and then do the next
yeah.
round?
Great question. So it's anywhere from like 10 to 20 seconds. So we're doing like a really intense burst of energy for 10 to 20 seconds. And then we're resting until we can go again. So if you're on the treadmill, you go, 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 you're 80%, and then maybe go to a walk and you're catching your breath and you're letting yourself recover. And it may be 2 minutes. And in the CrossFit world, it was 10 seconds. We did
Oh my
Bata
God.
timers all the time. And 10 seconds, we need more time. And then we can go again to get into that intense 80% of our effort of the day. So,
And so this might look like, and you said how many times we're doing this? 10 to 40? 10
no,
to,
no, no, 4 to 10 times, 4 to 10
okay,
intervals. Yeah.
got it. And then
Hmm.
you're done. And
Yep.
then you might do that not the next day, but a
Hmm.
couple of days from there. And
Yep.
that sounds very intense. So that versus like a lot of people might get on the treadmill and go 30, 40, 50 minutes per day, just like
Hmm.
not at 80%, maybe at 40% or 50%, but they're just kind of, doing that just to go at a steady pace. That's not as effective for somebody over 50 than doing these intervals, the interval training.
Yeah, so interval training is really great for visceral fat, for our belly fat, which is like an issue. People talk about that in midlife, like the menopause belly. Where did this come from? And so interval training is really fantastic at that. And also, it honors your hormones. We talked about stress earlier. There are times when you're going to push too far and you don't want to end up on the couch, because if you end up on the couch, then you're not an active human, which is violating one of the four keys. And so we want to feel the intensity and then be able to do something tomorrow. Like if we go too far today and we don't do anything tomorrow, then we're not following the four keys of fitness and at this stage.
So after those two workouts, though, then you're done
Hmm.
for the week as far as cardio training, and then you're just being an active human,
Yeah,
meaning, and that includes like walking long distances, taking your dog for a nice long walk, or going for a
absolutely.
hike, or doing something like that. So it's not saying don't go hiking or don't
No.
go bike riding, but it's just like you're setting aside two very specific, I'm working on cardio training sessions and then a couple of weight training sessions. And then as far as your like official, I'm over 50 and I'm working out and I'm doing what I can for my body. You're
Uh-huh.
doing that. And then the active human is move your body. Just
Move
move,
it.
move.
Yep.
Yeah. Move it,
It,
walk around the block, walk around the lake.
mhm, absolutely. And that's, I like to think of that as, walking by yourself, walking with your spouse, walking with your dog, walking with your girlfriend, whatever that is, it's kind of the fun thing. And I also like to think, excuse me, cardio is fun. Like pickleball's big in our neighborhood. Is it big in where you live too?
Yes, very much so.
And
Mhm.
I would put that definitely under cardio. It's intervals, right? It's interval
Right.
training. And so I
For
like to
sure.
like the cardio to be the fun part of your life. So if you love pickleball or my sister loves tennis, then let that be the cardio part of your life. And
Yeah.
then the active part of your life is more like hiking, walking, things that are less stressful on your body. We're just moving.
Right, like swimming and
Yeah.
such.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
I get it. Oh, that makes
Hmm.
total sense, and
Hmm.
it really does sound doable then. What about like in yoga as well, that you would see that as part of your move your body?
I think so. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Do you
Right.
have any opinions about like yoga or Pilates for women over 50 as far as like horse training and stuff like that? Or do you feel like the strength training is enough?
I feel like the strength training is enough, but if you love Pilates, then you should do some Pilates. Maybe not as much, maybe just 1 day or 2 days a week. Maybe you need to pull it back. I feel like out of the four keys, I don't know. Every time you strength train, every time you're building muscle, you're investing in your future. And so that's really important. So I would put
Mhm.
that first and then see how your week plans out. If there's a class that you love and there's people that you love in the class and the instructor and all that, I would never take that away from somebody, but making
Yeah.
sure the strength training comes first.
Got it.
Hmm.
Okay. And who do you work with? Like, how old is the oldest person that you're working with now? I mean, like, are you too old after a certain point to really start strength training? I mean, I'm sure the answer is no, but what's your
Yeah.
opinion on that?
You're not too old. I did not lift a weight until I was 41, I think, 40,
Mm,
41. And it was an amazing experience. And I went a little crazy. I don't want anyone to go crazy. There's a way to build muscle and have fun with your workouts and build your confidence without going too far. Yeah. So I would say most people are in their 50s that I work with personally, but
mhm.
you're never too old.
Yeah, I found this woman on YouTube, and in one of my podcasts, I talk about her. She's this Japanese woman whose husband told her she was too fat, and she wished she was about 65. I guess she had gained, 30 pounds or whatever. And she's just started working out, and she became a fitness trainer when she was 87 years old.
Oh, I love
Like,
it. I
isn't
love
that
that.
crazy? And
Uh,
there's some videos of her teaching classes like at the age of 90 or something. I mean, it's
uh-huh.
insane. But it's such a great story.
Mhm.
Very
I feel like
inspiring to me.
very inspiring. I feel like your fitness should enhance your life. We just got back from Washington State where we hiked through three of the national parks up there. And that's
Oh,
why I
beautiful.
strength train, to do those hikes and climb those mountains and like
Mm,
feel good about myself. Yeah. I like to connect the why. Like, why are you working out? Are you worried about bone density? Are you worried about your adventures? What is it for you? And if you can tie that to why you're working out, I think that's very helpful.
after you work out, that's great. That's
Mhm.
so important is that mindset piece, is that the why and connecting it to something that's not just like, well, I have to, or it's good for
Mhm.
me, but like, oh, this allows me to have good posture. It
Mhm.
allows me to feel good when I sit in my car seat. It allows me to stand up without feeling off balance. I mean, all of those things are things that I'm
Mhm.
looking at because I'm at the end of my 50s, Cam. As I head into my 60s, I'm thinking about, okay, these are some
Uh-huh.
things that really need to be put into,
Mhm.
be kept. And so much of it sounds to me is like keeping what you had that you didn't have to work for in your 30s and 40s.
Mhm.
Now you have to work to keep them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very reasonable, logical plan. It's not crazy. That's what I
It,
want people to know.
I love that. Your plan sounds very, yeah, very doable. So what about stretching after you work out? Like, is that part of it as well, like stretching out what you've done, or is that not so important? I'm just curious.
Well, I like a dynamic warm up, which is like a moving warm up. And like, I don't want you just to stick your leg up and stretch. I want you to move to get warmed up. And then I believe in recovery. One of the things that we did in the CrossFit gym was I had a mobility certification, like how to take care of your human body. Like, what can I do with this lacrosse ball? How can I make myself feel better? So I believe in foam rolling and using a lacrosse ball and stretching. Yeah, it's really about in midlife, I think it's really about learning how to love and care for yourself in a new way. Maybe exercise used to be a punishment, or maybe you took it, I don't know, you punished yourself for eating something, or what was your mindset around exercise? But now in midlife, your body's changing, your hormones are changing. It's about loving and caring yourself in a new way. So if you need to stretch, or you need to foam roll, or you need to schedule a massage, I encourage that.
I love it. Well, now tell us about your Jumpstart Academy because Cam has a free 7 day. Well, tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's a free 7-day experience, if you will. Some of the days it's education, it talks about protein and, stuff, but then there are also workouts, which are spread out like I described. They're not one, two, three in a row. So there are three workouts over the course of the week. It talks about the parts of your metabolism, which we talked about a little bit today. Talks about the need for protein as we age and go through midlife. And so it's an experience. So it's workouts and educations, and it's free 7 days.
I love it. And that link to sign up for that will be in our show notes. So definitely,
Perfect.
if you're interested in seeing what Cam has as far as the workout and what she recommends that you do, what we were talking about here today, this is a perfect way to get a
Mhm.
taste of that. So,
Yes,
um,
it's the workouts included are exactly how I program. So you'll see what strength training looks like to me in midlife versus CrossFit.
and then if you love it, then you have a membership that you people can then join and they're doing more with you.
Yeah, it's called Move the Dial, and it's been this great community of women from all over the United States. I actually met one of the members in Washington last week when we were on vacation. We had dinner at her house. It
Nice.
was so
Oh,
fun.
fun.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah, it was
I love
awesome. They
that.
cooked for us. Yes. So it's a really intimate group of women who are from all over the United States. And yeah, we have live weeklies and there's workouts and all the things to help you support your midlife.
I love it. Okay, so all of that will be available for you in the show notes. So check it out, you guys. Cam, I want to thank you so much. If there was one thing that you could, that first step that anyone could take, to start moving more to get stronger, what would you say your first step was? If I came to you and I was like, I'm a mess, what do I do? What would you be number one?
I would make sure you're taking walks every day. That would be one. And then two, get you to pick up some weights. I really want you to pick up some weights.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. Great advice. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's been so wonderful to have you on. This has been really enlightening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cam. I love that she made a complex and overwhelming subject seem so doable. Don't you? Just like that gardening, breaking it all down. She broke it all down for us. I love that. Thank you, Cam. So don't forget to check out her amazing freebie, free 7-day Midlife Muscle Jumpstart Academy. The links are in the show notes. And have an amazing week. And remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. I'll see you next week. Do you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release? Head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking: Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.